please. Right, we're on.
Thank you. Welcome everyone to the Corporation of the Township of Bonnechere Valley Committee meeting on Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. It is 1:30 p.m. We are meeting by council and council chambers and Zoom. If you're a little confused, no, I am not Merv Buchwald. I am chairing for Merv today, who's up on our screen. Welcome, Merv. Are there any additions to the agenda? Seeing none. I would ask that we change our agenda to include Laurel Cook, who will be introducing our delegation this afternoon. Welcome, Laurel. At that, I will ask for a confirmation of the agenda. Moved by Brent. All in favor? Thank you. Is there any pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? I see none. I would ask for an approval of the minutes from our last meeting, please. Moved by Tracy. Were there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? Thank you. And at this time, I will ask Laurel to introduce our delegate, Jacob Hanlon.
Yes, good day. I'm president of the Bonnechere Valley Inspired Group, and our mandate is to foster a healthy, creative, culturally rich, and socially connected community. And we have written a sustainability action plan. And one of those action plans in our discussion was to make council aware of this Food Cycle municipal program. So that's why we arranged with Annette and Jacob and for you to meet him also at their home. All right, and I'll turn it over to Jacob.
Thank you. Welcome, Jacob. Nice to see you. Tracy and Annette and I had the opportunity to meet Jacob a few weeks ago at the Roma conference. He was very busy at his booth, so we didn't keep him too long, but take it away, Jacob.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the introduction, Laurel. I really appreciate it. And yes, it was really nice seeing a few of you at the Roma conference. It was definitely a busy day, and glad that I can follow up on that with more information here in this presentation. So I'm going to share my screen and take about 10 minutes of your time to go through the information here. So I'm just going to start by saying thank you very much for having me on today. As mentioned, my name is Jacob Hanlon. I'm the Municipal Solutions Manager at Food Cycle Science, and I'm really excited to be here to discuss our food waste diversion program. Just to briefly speak a bit about who we are as a company, Food Cycle Science is a Canadian company. We are based out of Ottawa, and we are 100% focused on food waste diversion solutions. So we do this using our innovative technology, which is the Food Cycler. Our in-home food recycler is sold direct to consumers through different streams, such as through partnerships with companies like Vitamix. We also put our food cyclers into schools through partnerships with not-for-profit organizations such as Eco Schools Canada. And then the reason that I'm here is to speak about our municipal programs. So our municipal solutions help many communities across Canada. Often they can be rural, they can be remote, northern, as well as some of the more denser populated areas as well. But they essentially help keep food waste out of the landfills and out of the waste streams in those municipalities. So to date, we're working with 122 Canadian municipalities across 9 provinces and 2 territories, from some very northern rural places like Dawson City in the Yukon, all the way down to places like the city of Windsor in Southern Ontario, and pretty much every shape and size of municipality in between. The municipalities that we work with, they often face struggles with food waste management where they either don't have an option for managing their food waste at the municipal level and at the household level. And this could be because curbside collection just isn't a viable option for them, or it's just not necessarily the best option based on their geography or their demographics. So not too far from you, we have programs in Carleton Place, Renfrew, Greater Madawaska, and Arnprior, just to name a few. Now, to speak about the issue, which is food waste, largest problem with this is that it is avoidable. It's a stream of our waste that doesn't have to end up in the garbage. But when it does, it accounts for a large portion of our household waste. It's made up of mostly a liquid, which is heavy. It freezes in the wintertime when left outside, and overall, it's just unpleasant to deal with as a resident. On top of that, when we do put food waste in the landfill, it's responsible for generating some pretty harmful greenhouse gases that are not good for our environment. And all these factors make it so that food waste is a problem that has a strong municipal impact. So a few of the impacts to municipalities, one of them is that, as I mentioned there, food waste makes up a large portion of our household waste stream. And because of that, it is causing our landfills to fill up quickly. Operating a landfill is quite expensive, and whether it's municipally owned or privately owned, it's expensive in the sense that those costs trickle through municipalities down to residents. And overall, on top of that, we want to extend the lifespan of our landfills for as long as we can. When we look at the environmental impact of food waste, when it goes in the landfill, it is in an anaerobic environment, which means that it doesn't have the proper access to oxygen that it needs to effectively break down. As it's squished between tons and tons of waste. So when it's in that anaerobic environment, it ends up producing methane gas while it is breaking down. And that's many times more harmful than CO2 to the environment. Food waste breaking down the landfill can also create leachates and liquids within the landfill that are toxic to animals, to the groundwater, the list goes on. So we really want to keep our food waste out of the landfills. But then when we look in our communities, putting food waste in the garbage, as I kind of touched on there, it's unpleasant to deal with. It causes odors. It's not necessarily pleasant to handle as a resident, whether it's taking garbage out to the curb or self-hauling to a landfill or a transfer station. But it is attractive for animals who like to come to our garbage bins and our bags and make a big mess of things and go through our trash. So removing food waste from the garbage eliminates all these issues, and at the end of the day, it overall reduces the volume of waste that's going through our waste stream into our landfill. So this can save the municipality on hauling, disposal fees, can save space in the landfill, and it can save residents on any hassle related to managing their waste and any excess waste fees that they might face, such as bag tags. Now, we often get asked the question, haven't we solved this problem already? And there are solutions out there for food waste. There are curbside green bins, which are typically more common in bigger cities with high population density and the right infrastructure. However, this can be cost prohibitive and it can be operationally challenging to implement. In terms of backyard composting, many people in your community might backyard compost. And while this is definitely a great solution without a doubt, unfortunately, backyard composting is just not something that's feasible for everybody. Certainly not a year-round solution with our harsh winters that we have here, and there's still the concern about animals being attracted to the food in that backyard bin. And then finally, the, I guess, easiest solution is to continue to landfill organic waste, but as I touched on, the long-term impacts there are pretty harmful and costly and not good for the environment. So I'm just going to play a short video here now to give a depiction of the food cycler as a technology. So what we've essentially done is proposed a different way to deal with food waste, and this focuses on making it really easy to deal with and right at home. So essentially, we built a small appliance. It's about the size of a bread machine. You'll notice it's on the counter in these videos, but it doesn't have to go on the counter. It works anywhere that has a plug. So many residents will keep it in a garage, in their basement, and then they just have that removable bucket going back and forth between the kitchen and their machine. A big, I guess, benefit of the food cycler compared to something like backyard composting is you can put in pretty much all of your daily food scraps. And this includes things like meat, poultry, fish, dairy, your typical fruit and veggie scraps, coffee grinds, eggshells, even some bones. And then in a cycle that's usually done overnight, so about an 8-hour process, you end up transforming your food waste into a nutrient-rich soil amendment that can actually be used into your garden. Now, when we look at the two machines we have available in our municipal programs, biggest difference here is the machine on the left has a 2.5 liter capacity, while the one on the right has a 5 liter capacity. Both of them process your food waste in 8 hours or less. They use quite a low amount of power per cycle, so between 0.8 and 1.3 kilowatt hours of power per cycle. And essentially in our programs, we recommend that a resident in a household of 3 people or more chooses the larger machine for that added volume, but we leave it up to the resident to decide which machine is best suited for them. I'm going to touch on the byproduct again in the next slide, but just to give a quick before and after here. So I just want to emphasize that there's about a 90% reduction in the weight and volume of food waste in that cycle that takes less than 8 hours. Again, 0.8 to 1.5 kilowatt hours of power per cycle, similar to having a computer plugged in for the same amount of time. And that end product, it is something that is beneficial. So most of our residents put that byproduct into their garden. You'd want to mix it in there the same way that you would a fertilizer. So a 1:10 to 1:20 ratio to your soil, and you want to mix it in, not just pour it in a pile on top. But for the residents who don't necessarily have a garden or want to garden, it can be put into a backyard composter, and it's reduced in that volume. It's sped up along the process of breaking down to a fully composted state. And throughout the winter time, if it's going in there, it's not going to overflow the backyard bin because of the volume reduction. It can also be added to leaf and yard waste systems. It can be dropped off at a local compost site if there is one. And if there are any local farmers or community gardens who are interested in taking the byproduct, that's also something that can be worked out as well. And then lastly, it can also be added into a green bin or taken to an organics facility if it's available. Now, just to shift gears a little bit here and look at the economic impact of a food cycle program compared to the more traditional method of managing waste. When you look at a traditional method, it's a heavily burdened system. There are unrelenting costs between trucking, labor, maintenance, the transferring and disposal of the waste. With the food cycler, it's a very decentralized approach. So we're essentially addressing the issue of food waste right at the source in the household. There's no additional labor, there's no greenhouse gas emissions from putting extra trucks on the road, and there's no infrastructural costs to the municipality or to the resident having to accommodate for collection and disposal of waste. Now, we understand that awareness can be an issue these days with a non-traditional program such as this, but I'm going to do my best to give you some peace of mind and say that one thing we've learned from working with all of our over 120 municipal partners is that residents are very interested in this type of solution. They want to try new things, they want options when it comes to managing their waste, and they want the government to bring these programs and these initiatives into their communities. With the food cycler, what you get to do is bring something that's innovative and tangible to your residents, and they don't necessarily need to live in that big city or that dense urban area to actually divert their organics. So with our programs, as we'll see in the next slide here, we've had some very successful feedback and data collected throughout the programs. Across the board, we've had over 50 municipalities and over 6,000 households complete some follow-up surveys for us as their pilot programs finished up. The results have been fantastic. I'm just going to highlight a few of them here, and this is only a snapshot of the overall data that we get, but participation rate, 98% of residents who participated in a food cycler program claim they're going to continue using their food cycler moving forward as their solution for food waste. I'll add on that the awareness and prevention stat at the bottom there, 77% of residents claim that they're actually wasting less food in the first place now because they're managing it at home. It's not out of sight, out of mind, and they're actually adopting some better habits. That's not necessarily a quantitative or piece of data or a value that you can put a monetary value attached to it, but it's a really good qualitative piece just to see how the food cycler helps affect behavior in a positive way. And the last one I'll touch on there is that second last one, the net new diversion. Residents who were prior to using a food cycler throwing their food waste in the garbage, from surveying those residents and getting their data and their feedback, we found that on average there's a per household net new waste diversion of 300 kilograms of food waste per year, depending on what your residents are doing in terms of maybe additionally backyard composting, or if they were just putting everything in the garbage. This is very significant. It's directly correlated to waste savings if you know your cost per kilogram or per ton of managing waste. So really encouraging statistics to see. Now I'll just touch here on this federal funding we have for the sake of time. I won't go too far into detail into it, but essentially we have federal funding that we're putting towards these programs. We are currently in Impact Canada's Food Waste Reduction Challenge. It's a federally run initiative from Agri-Food and Agriculture Canada. And with that, we have received stage 2 funding, and that is a large grant that's been going towards our municipal programs. Any municipalities that partner with us or have partnered with us, they'll have the right of first refusal on any future funding as well. But as you'll see in a couple slides here, we are implementing this funding into our programs and helping reduce the cost for residents to be part of this. Before I get to that pricing and wrap up, I'm just going to quickly touch on the actual pilot timeline. So the pilot program is typically a 12-week project. Residents will purchase their food cycler at the subsidized rate from their municipality. They will then use their food cycler for 12 weeks and track the number of cycles per week. And then at the end of those 12 weeks, we send out that follow-up survey I mentioned, and residents fill it out, provide their feedback and review the program. And then they get to keep their food cycler for good. We then take all that data, compile it into a nice report and presentation, present it back to you after that 12 weeks to show the success of the program, provide information like participation, recommendation rates, waste diversion numbers. It's a really good presentation report that you get to see and kind of see that follow through of the program. The data can also be used for grant applications, waste management decisions, can go towards any kind of climate change action plan. And then we also provide some options on the typical and traditional next steps with the program that a lot of other municipalities would go with. Basically, my second last slide before I wrap up here, just wanted to go over the pricing structure of the program. So top line there, you have the retail price of what you would find the machines at on, let's say, Amazon or on the Vitamix website. And then we have our food cycler municipal discount in that next line mixed with that federal investment from Impact Canada. That brings the price down by 50%. We then ask for a municipal subsidy that would come from the township of $100 per household. And then the resident would pay that remaining amount, either $150 for the small machine or $300 for the large. And then at the end of that 12-week period, the food cycler is theirs to keep. And with that municipal subsidy as well, it's a one-time per household cost that the municipality is chipping in. And that is essentially an upfront investment for 7 to 10 years of waste diversion after that. In terms of a return on investment, or kind of hitting that break-even point with the cost of the program, most municipalities see that between years 2 and 3. And then for all the years following that, it's just direct waste savings and a surplus there. Last slide here before I wrap up and kind of open it up for questions, but just kind of a summary of the cost of the program. So for a population of your size, we'd recommend the 100 household program, but we're happy to tailor it to your needs or to your budget. 50 households is the minimum pilot size. And just to go with that 100 example at $100 per household, that would be a municipal cost of $10,000 plus shipping and tax. We have a warehouse just over here in Prescott, so shipping would not be anything substantial. But again, we're happy to adapt these numbers to help kind of best fit the needs of your residents and your budget and any kind of climate action targets you have. I'm not going to go through this last slide here just because I believe you have a copy on your end. And if not, I'll make sure you get a copy. But these are just some reasons that may resonate with you as to why you should consider partnering with us. I believe I touched on most of them throughout the presentation anyway, so this is just more of a summary page, but essentially it's a low-cost option to provide your residents with a year-round food waste diversion opportunity in a place where other costly programs might just not be viable. So I am now just going to wrap up and say that we would like to welcome you in looking at the details and pursuing a partnership to help bring this food waste program to the community. Today, I'm just asking that you receive this presentation as information, but if there is interest in partnering, I'd love to work with a staff member to bring a report and a recommendation back to council. All that being said, thank you very much for taking the time to watch the presentation and have me chat with you for 10-ish minutes here, and happy to answer any questions that you have at this time. So thank you again.
Thanks so much, Jacob. Wow, I've met my match and you can speak faster. All right, You actually answered two of my questions during your presentation, but I'll
Perfect.
throw it open to committee for questions, comments, concerns. Councillor Epps.
So 90% reduction in weight and volume. The volume's easy because the shredder takes care of that. Is there a dehydration or evaporation process that takes place in the 12 hours? Okay. so there's
Yes.
a-
Yep. So essentially, and it's an 8-hour cycle, and with that 8 hours, the moisture is all taken out. It's a dehydration process, but because it's stretched out over that 8-hour period, there's no need for a drain or a collection area for that moisture. So essentially, it comes out as warm air from the ventilation system. And again, over that 8-hour period, it's never going to create a buildup of moisture, let's say, in the area surrounding the machine.
See, my two questions were, do I have to have it on my counter, which you answered,
Yeah.
thank you, I don't. And my other question was, could I do meat? Because if you've got dogs and you have a compost pile, you know, like when you're putting in bones and things like that, it's not ideal. So any other questions for Jacob?
Merv has one.
Oh, sorry, Merv, go ahead. Thanks, Tracy.
You can have.
Oh, Merv, you're on mute. Merv, you're on mute.
There you go.
Oh, there
Merv,
you
mute
go.
now?
Merv.
Is that
There you
better?
go. Yeah.
Lovely.
No, I think you're barking up the wrong tree. If you want to look at food waste, go around behind grocery stores. That's
We
where
do
take a walk down the back alleys in the city behind grocery stores and restaurants if you want to really look after food waste.
They'd need the Food Cycler 3000.
So we do have commercial units as well that go into restaurants and grocery stores and
Oh,
hotels, seniors homes, etc. Within our municipal programs, just because residential waste management is most often managed by the municipality, that's where we work with the municipal councils and governments to provide the residents with this option. We do have a different team within the company that works with grocery stores and kind of that commercial side. And they do have the larger machines that I believe they range from 60 liters up to a full on 1,000 liters with a lift system and everything. So if there was interest from any of the local restaurants or stores, and there was a contact that you wanted us to get in touch with, we're happy to explore that as well. But to date, within the municipal programs, we have stayed within the realm of the residences.
thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Patrick.
Jacob, thanks for your presentation. One of the questions for so some of your participations by it's like Renfrew, Arnprior, just because we are a rural community, so we kind of have a different needs than some of the major, like, I guess you would say, urban centers. I was just curious on some of, or if you have the data available, you can provide to Ned afterwards on some of the trial periods on like these. You would probably have like the proximities to the town centers of the individuals, because some of the townships in our area are quite large. So like in our township, you have close proximity of Eganville, you have close proximity in the communities of Foymount. Besides that, we're very rural based and large, like we're a 40-minute township from one end to the other. So I was more just curious on, with your historicals of say Arnprior, Renfrew, or even Greater Madawaska, where the density of actually the people that participated was.
That's a really good question, and I can put together an info package based on their programs and send it over this week. Definitely happy to do that. One thing I will mention is we've had some positively surprising feedback from rural residents in a lot of our programs. And funny enough, the program actually started more in the rural sense because a lot of the larger and urban dense communities already had curbside green bin, for example. But we found that a lot of the rural residents, just because of the spread in demographics, we have seniors who absolutely love the technology because they don't have to trudge out in the winter in the snow to their compost pile or to their backyard bin. We have some residents who, they have a garden and instead of waiting for the 4 or 5 months for their compost to come out the bottom of their compost bin. They find that having something like this has allowed them to use their food waste as a fertilizer in their garden a lot quicker and a lot more frequent. I mean, the list does go on, but I'll definitely get that info for you for those local programs and kind of the more rural settings, just because we find that whether it's rural or dense, young or old, it seems to be something that really everybody is interested in. And if somebody, let's say, had a large piece of land and they had a big compost pile, or even if they just wanted to throw their food waste in the backwoods, because that's what they always did, those are typically the people who just wouldn't register for the program. We do have some communities that are looking at going full community wide and putting one in every household. But for these pilot programs, it's typically 100, 200 households, and out of the population, there's typically, whether that's 1, 2, 5, 10% of the overall, there's usually enough people who are either a green thumb, sustainability focused, just currently having trouble with food waste, to fill up those spots. And then with those people, you have the ones who are interested and who have the need, and you're not forcing it on anyone who's not necessarily interested on their end.
No, thank you for answering the question. And then just a small follow-up. For the programs, you're the municipal solutions, so you deal with the municipalities. So then if we had private residents, because this is obviously an information piece and we'll discuss it later as a council. But so if people are interested in your product and say we didn't decide not to move forward with it, would residents reach out to you for the process, or is there another individual that you reach out to at your company if they're interested in this, but the municipality decides not to?
And further to that, would it be $500 or $800 if a resident wanted that? Those go together.
Yeah, so I appreciate those questions. Unfortunately, when the machines are bought outside of the municipal programs, just at the normal retail level, that's when we direct residents to the Vitamix website, as they are our North American distribution partner. So they go to the Vitamix website, and yeah, unfortunately there it is that full price. I think that's one of the huge benefits of this program as well, is that the reason the price goes down is definitely in part of that municipal subsidy, but then also that federal grant that comes in there, as well as the discount from our municipal team. So unfortunately, I wish I had a better answer, but yeah, it's full price, and it would be at the Vitamix website in the event that it's not through a municipal program.
No, 100%. I appreciate you answering the question, which is always nice when, especially at the council table, which is great. But no, and then one of the questions. We have the municipal piece that you have here. And then are you also, like, when you're providing the follow-up information to Annette, are you also able to share the business side of it as well, in case we have partners in the community that maybe this is down their alleyway? I've recognized the product from actually in the earlier stages of I think it was a couple of years ago, actually, something very similar of it and stuff. But no, I'd be interested just on that end of it, just so we get more information, the better, I find. So
yeah, absolutely. I can attach some of our commercial. We just essentially have a one-page kind of commercial spec sheet and information sheet, and I can provide that as well for sure.
Okay. So Jacob, the other thing is, so let's pretend Bonnechere Valley just hypothetically decides to buy in for the 50 users under the pilot project. If others in the municipality want to try it, would they also be back up to that $500 or $800 price tag? Because 50 people isn't a lot.
Right. Okay. So in addition to that 50, what most of our municipal partners do is, because we have essentially, as part of the registration process, we have an online portal for a registration link, and that's where the residents would sign up. Because that link is being shared and the registrations are coming in through that online portal, most municipalities just, once it hits 50, the verbiage changes, whereas now whoever registers is part of a wait list. And it's made clear that this is a wait list in the event that a program is expanded in the future. Some municipalities, they open it up to 50 and they have 150 who sign up. And then that's when there's a discussion on, is it in the budget to expand further? We have a few other municipalities that have essentially had it as a budget item each year, where they do their initial program, hold a wait list after that, and then when it comes time for next year's budget deliberations, they look at what that wait list is at and reach out to those residents, confirm that they would be interested, and then kind of add it as an annual program, kind of a recurring program. So a few different options we can do with that. I would say that it's always helpful to just have that wait list going while the program's running, because word of mouth happens. People talk to their neighbors and their friends, and there's typically kind of a second surge or a second wave of interest. I would say most of our programs do end up having a kind of a second order or second expansion, whether it's shortly after the first or in the following budget year.
Okay, thank you. Did you?
Yeah, I was gonna ask if there's any comparable municipalities to Bonnechere Valley and any challenges with adoption of this product?
That's a good question.
GM would probably be the. Oh,
Yeah.
I would say that,
Counting on consumers to residents to purchase
Right.
it, right? So it's,
and it's not cheap.
no,
I would say that if it were helpful, I could always connect you with the staff members that we've been working with in places like Renfrew or Carleton Place or on Pryor, or I can even kind of do a bit more of a dig in terms of our other Ontario municipalities that are similar size. I know places like Augusta, Edwardsburg, Cardinal, they may be good similar municipalities to speak with. So happy to send a list of contacts and kind of similar size populations as well in my follow-up.
But Renfrew and Arnprior are not even close to us. That's the problem.
I'm just wondering what the
They're
execution looks
far
like.
larger and very suburban. I think what Brent was asking earlier was success in a township more like Greater Madawaska. And where is the success? Is it in Calabogie or is it in their rural environment? But I think, Jacob, that you've been very kind to answer that you will send along more information. You also just touched on something very important. This is a budgetary item, and with our very small budgets and our levy needs for infrastructure, etc., this is certainly going to be something that we will place on our list of discussion items. Council have anything else? Go ahead.
So this could be a question you could answer and send along. You mentioned typically 100 households joining at the pilot level. That 100 households, does that reflect the population? Arnprior is 20,000, Renfrew 7,500. We're like 4,000, sort of. And so that's what I mean. What when you base that number of 100 joining your pilot, or we get to choose the numbers in the pilot.
Yeah, that's the 2,500 to 10,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So secondly, that's a big spread between 2,500 and 10,000.
Agreed.
So I'd like to know what you base 100 participants on, what is the background population. Second, when you join the pilot as a consumer, you'd end up paying with all of the subsidies available, you'd pay $300 for the 5-liter unit. Does that mean you pay that upfront and join the pilot project? If you then, now you have a lot of people staying with the pilot, choosing to stay with the program after the pilot. If they don't, is that initial $300 investment that's done and there's no recourse to that? They don't get any money back if they choose not to continue with the program.
Yeah, that's typically done on a case-by-case basis. I think because the participation is so great, it's not something where we necessarily have to have a standard structured response to it. If a resident joined the program and it just really wasn't for them, and they used it for a week or 2 or 3, our team's happy to discuss with them and hear the reasons. And if a refund is something that is kind of the best course of action, we're happy to do that. But again, it's more of a case-by-case basis. If a resident's using their machine for 12 weeks, 15 weeks, and then at the end of the pilot, they say, oh, I don't want this anymore. A little different than if they tried it out for a short amount of time. And especially if it's early in the pilot, we can always find someone on the wait list to then take the machine. So definitely case-by-case basis. We don't want to, again, it's an opt-in program. We don't want anyone to be unhappy with it. And typically the people who are opting in are the ones who are interested.
Calling it a pilot just makes me think a little differently. But that's all right. I'll look forward to your, more information.
Thank you, Jacob. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Mayor and councilors and members of staff. And again, thank you to Laurel for arranging all this and getting us here. So have a great rest of your day, and I will send over that extra information.
Wonderful, thank you. I was hoping you would come and bring some, show us.
Geez, I should have brought it.
It was very interesting at Roma.
Yeah.
All right, and we are moving on to our recreation report with Kevin McGrath. Kevin's all confused. He's like, why is Jen talking to me? I'm Merv this afternoon.
Afternoon, everyone. As you can see, I had some interesting week and a bit there, so anyways.
The craft hockey bill thing couldn't have come at a better time, apparently.
Yeah, anyways, good news is we got the machine back today, so we got our old machine back, and that's the positive, so we fixed the issues and we're moving forward with it, so that's good news. We didn't lose any more time than we did. That was the most important. And you can see with the arena, where tournaments are going throughout. We're on the home run stretch now. We have a couple more tournaments. Family Day yesterday, the public skating and family skate was about 45 to 50 people. So it was pretty good. It was a good number considering it was such a nice day outside.
It really was.
So
Oh, it's a beautiful winter.
yeah.
No, but even though it was cold yesterday, it was glorious out.
The sun was nice. Minor hockey starting their playoffs. They're just starting this week. So they're doing a little different format this year. It's a round robin ordeal, so everybody stays in right to the March break, and then after the March break, they have a final in. So all the kids are participating to the end of March, basically.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah, so it's a better, it's a nice format.
Yeah.
The Eagles Nest upstairs, we have some birthday parties and that, but overall it's hockey tournaments are using the hall plus the kitchen. So. Centennial Park, Mother Nature outdoor rink. That's the way we were. Nothing we can do about that. And for the village, the banner, I was talking to Alan. We've had a couple of dates, but weather kind of switched, so we're shooting for Thursday now, this week, to take the banner down plus the lights, so
It'll be warm but raining.
well, then that
Yeah.
changed too, so we're not sure. And Minor Hockey wants to give you a big thank you for the Lisa Sharp tournament for passing the rental fees, so anyways, they're very happy with, and it's going a great line, so
It really is.
yeah. And it's 2-day thing, so I'm not sure where the numbers are of teams yet, but I know they have with good interest.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Any questions, comments? Oh, he's holding his March Madness.
Well, I bring it up, it's Sarah and whoever's contributing to this, it's a busy week.
Stay on your toes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different events happening throughout the week, so it's very full.
Well, and I noticed the escape rooms on there, and council still hasn't decided when we're going to do the escape
Well,
room.
we got trivia coming.
I know we do, but we
We'll
need the
test our
escape
might out.
room during March break.
For the Olympia,
Yeah.
what was actually wrong with it?
Hydraulics and wiring.
The ignition switch was the big issue, right? And we thought it was the starter at the start, and anyways.
Geez, how old is the Olympia?
It's 15 years old.
15 years old. What's the life expectancy of them?
And that varies on the maintenance of everything, so they say 8 to 12 years, so, but our machine's in great shape.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. It's kind of like, it's like a dump truck. You're gonna have issues with it.
Yeah.
And somehow it's just unfortunate when it happens during the hockey season.
Well, then that's the thing, and we were fortunate we were there.
Yeah.
And it did happen. That was the end of the day. That
But
was.
it's gonna depend on hours as well, hours of use.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
I mean, yours isn't going to last like the the Maple Leaf Gardens.
No, that's right, yeah.
But I think that was the first time since I've been on council that it's actually been down a dollar in the winter season.
Yeah,
I can't remember another time.
They don't Zamboni very often in the summer.
Well, no, that's it. Well, we could, but.
what's
expensive.
happening now is these are original parrots that we're changing. That's what's going on right now.
Okay. Then after 15 years, I don't think it should be a surprise.
No, and that's, yeah.
No, that's where I'm more getting at. It's just to be expected. It's like it's like a boiler for a house. You're gonna have to.
Yeah.
It's gonna break down unfortunately in winter at some point, so. Well, at least it was up and running and
No, it's, yeah.
pretty fast and quick, so.
You just left it right out there for me.
What I'm here for.
Well, that's the end of my report. Any questions from council?
That's great. Anything. I'm really looking forward to March Madness. I think it's gonna be
No,
fantastic.
it's,
Yeah.
We had the one request from the farmers union for.
Oh, that, and we got an additional email actually today about the Eagle's Nest on March 7th. So yes, time is of the essence.
Because
Yeah.
the request was, we have to respond with the fees for it, and then secondly, it was just if we would help facilitate Zoom or something with that,
Yeah,
so that's what.
hang on, the new email, I've got it right here. I left it open.
But on most organizations in the past, we've generally just had your standard hall fee if nothing's utilized.
Yeah.
And then obviously, are we able to help facilitate with the Zoom or?
We've
Or
never
we-
done it before, but yes, we would be able to, but it means that we have to set up a laptop and we have to have somebody there, for the evening.
And they
So-
can't set it up, the Zoom themselves, like,
Will they be on our account?
Our,
is
that's,
the issue.
yeah.
oh, okay.
Now,
The Bonnecher Valley
I mean,
Wi-Fi.
I'm assuming that Kevin's going to have staff there. If there's people in the Eagles Nest, we usually have at least one staff around.
Yeah.
So they could probably set up the laptop. You're right, let them, if they know how to use
Yeah.
it, go ahead and use it, and then have staff there to go and shut it down. So we would just have to be there at the beginning and the end. Yeah.
Yeah, so no, that, I was just gonna say, just
Mhm.
the standard rate, and then just will help facilitate the conference or Zoom, just to.
Yeah, because we have the equipment, it just has to be, yeah, so.
But do all of your staff know how to set up and,
well, we'll make that work.
all right.
Well, I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, we'd have to have a particular person and probably Kevin or.
Yeah, if it was me, I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I'm going.
Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure, I just.
There you go.
Yeah.
Tracy's going, she can set up the Zoom.
Okay, and then March 7th isn't an issue with the, like, it's not rented out.
No, I checked that. No.
Okay, sounds good. No, I'm fine with that then, just standard
Yeah.
fee and
Yeah.
just help facilitate it. That's perfect.
I am interested in the whole work bees thing.
Mhm. It sounds very
Yeah.
interesting.
My sister and brother-in-law have beehives and it's very interesting. Just their whole environment is fascinating. I might go too. It's not a great night for me, but I'm,
Potluck. Good day for you.
Perfect.
oh God.
Well,
So I'll
Kevin.
get Dave
thank
to
you.
make
Thank-
something to take.
I'm not actually the
Something
chair,
for me
but
too, okay?
Jen's the chair. I'm just helping facilitate as a deputy mayor. That's all right.
He loves that. Did you see his
You like-
paper
Do you like
sign?
my paper sign? That's good, eh?
Perfect.
Annette made it for him in a paper and
For about
taped it.
10, for about 10 more months. There you go. Thanks, Kevin.
Then I think
Thank
it's
you.
on to John.
All right. I'm sorry, Marshall, we don't take questions during committee. My apologies. Zandra, Finance.
Okay, so we're still busy working on 2023 year end. The auditors will be here tomorrow for their on-site visits. On January 26th, I attended the virtual Municipal Finance Officers Association discussion. The January income statement was in your package to compare January 2023 to January of 2024.
And I apologize for my request. I found it after you sent it.
Oh,
I emailed it, then went splunking for it, found it, and then you sent it. So my apologies.
that's okay. It was probably a different version because I've done a few year-end entries.
It is a different version because it's got amortization on it.
Yes,
But what I wanted was the one from January, which I couldn't find, but I finally found it.
okay.
So my apologies.
And I had quickly reviewed the income statement for comparing January to January. We are very similar. The few little nuances and differences were accruals that were set up in January 2023. That would have been reversed
Right, reversed out.
out. But otherwise, the numbers are very comparable from one January to the next. Because every time I noticed a little discrepancy, it was usually an accrual when I went looking for it, so. And also included in your package was draft asset retirement obligations policy that we are required to get passed in order to complete our 2023 year end. For the asset retirement obligation that we now have to set up for our landfills.
Yep. But I like it. With the recent changes, thank you for giving us one other reporting burden. And in fact, we were warned at county during budget and auditing last year that this was coming around, and all of us sort of looked at each other like, do our treasurers know? And I guess you guys attended a meeting where you were sort of briefed on it, but it is one more piece of red tape under PSAP. And I'm sure you are, you know, I'm sure you're fully apprised, but yes, it is one more obligation.
So did anybody have any questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I tried to read through the asset retirement policy.
Yeah.
It's pretty dense.
Yeah.
So you'll get an executive summary.
Bedtime reading.
Your executive summary is what
this one.
Sandra put in
That
her
is, okay.
report.
I'll keep
That's his executive summary, and that's the best précis that she probably could have done.
Fair enough.
It is very bland reading and very dense. That is a good word. I think she's given you an idea of what these regulations are, but basically this isn't a decision. I like the recommendation. The province made us do it. So,
Well, we also, every time we're going through the budget in the last bunch of years, that's always one of the last numbers we've always looked at. Was just on post-closure, right?
this is different.
For them post-closure?
Yes,
Was it?
it's,
I thought this was planning for your actual landfills pretty
But
much.
they want us to record now the costs.
Yeah.
In the
Yes.
financial statements of the end. So so there'll be a big number added.
Yeah, there'll be a
As
big,
an obligation.
as an obligation, and then, but for a calculation for like when we're setting aside our funds for the post-closure costs,
Right,
then they're just pretty much mandating us to actually make sure we have set aside money for that post-closure. Is that pretty much? the summary?
yeah, all right. You know what? For the purposes of the gist of it, yes.
Yeah, and some.
Yeah.
Because no, and the reason I say that is because for the last several years, that was always the number.
Oh, yeah.
That we fought over, be like, hey, we wanna lower the percentage cost, but that's gonna mean we don't have this put away for actual asset landfill closure, right?
But
So-
it's also
And there's a lot of other
it's
things.
a guesstimate at best, which is really offensive when you're talking about accounting.
Well, no, it
you know,
100%
Right.
is. It's a factor of numbers and that's like, so for our calculation for like, how is this gonna impact our budget though, when we're doing it this year, if at all? Because like we put.
We will include post-closure, but as far as the budget goes, it's
The province has not dictated, and correct me if I'm wrong, Senator.
did it be funded?
that it
that it be,
funded,
that's
exactly.
right.
So they
Yep.
just dictate that we have to have a policy for it.
And we have to record. it
And
on our
enough-
And we have to
financials.
record on our
Yeah.
Yeah.
financials, okay, but there's not a policy that's similar to we have our asset. We put aside 1% increase every year towards our actual assets, like a roads, infrastructure.
Yeah, but that's our policy.
No, that's our policy, but it's,
Something they let us do.
but there's not a requirement for us to have a funding model for your post closures right now.
Not at
Not
this time.
yet.
Most like.
Not
But
yet.
do we- No, but that's where you can see where it's going,
Yeah.
but in our budget this year, are we gonna have what that? But are we gonna we know what our post-closure costs are we gonna have that part of our calculation?
No, we don't.
Well, we have an idea.
So
Yeah, we'll probably add something depending on where we end up and then we'll have the same.
Well, just to have it as a
discussion we had before.
reference, because we know it's gonna come.
Yeah.
I know.
And it's not good, it's not a small amount either. You can look at what we put away
Yeah.
for assets.
No, I
every year.
know, but right now, if you're talking about post-closure, it's like this number. And that's the problem.
Oh, yeah.
And when they're asking us to put a number on it, I think that's almost setting us up to fail.
Like,
Anyway,
imagine if
it's-
you'd have put a number on it before COVID,
I,
like it would have been,
Well, it would have,
COVID changed it, Sandra.
but since these are infrastructure, will this also, like, yes, we have our post-closure for our landfills and stuff, but on your assets as a whole, how would that impact our ownership of the dam, for example? Is that we have a surplus set aside for that, obviously, but is that a separate entity or is that considered under the same asset policy?
It's different because it's its own corporation with its own,
Yeah, we don't have
Yeah,
anything for
So
that.
we don't,
Yeah.
so it won't have any reference toward, okay. That was more-
go ahead, John.
So Sandra, I envisioned, talking about the landfill, that's a nice little package, that it was like tax installments that, so we're actually theoretically talking about it, but we aren't actually putting any money in the bank towards it yet.
well, we have some, we do
Yes.
have
So
some.
it's a line on our budget.
Yes,
Okay.
post-closure is a line on our budget, and that's the debate every year, how much should we put in for post-closure? But this is actually denoting in our financial statements that it's gonna cost us $25 million to close all of our landfills, which we're never gonna fully fund. I don't know why they're asking for it. If you want a better rant than I had when I walked in here this afternoon, I can give you one, but I'll leave it at that.
Well, I was impressed last budget session that Councillor Buckwald had a good handle on it, I thought, or he fooled me into thinking he did. What do you think, Merv, of that?
He is the wayside king, by the way.
I was gonna say.
Go ahead, Merv.
Yeah, what I took of this thing is that you had a end of life program. For example, we know that Snowdrifters is gonna close and we're having setting aside. I think this is to get after municipalities that say, oh, Jesus, we gotta close Snowdrifters and we got no money. What are we gonna do? That's kind of what I read into this thing. Is the municipalities that are not preparing anything for end of life.
Somewhat, but it's also saying that we recognize what it might cost down the line. I think they're trying to get us to give them a number. I don't believe that number will ever be right. I don't think that there are enough consultants or experts in Ontario that can give us those numbers. So we're gonna pick a number and that's what we'll put in our financials with the auditor's official okey dokey. And we will continue to put into our post-closure reserves what we feel we can afford and what is prudent without knowing really what it is going to cost in the end. And I mean, we're not alone in this, guys.
Nope.
We're not the only municipality in Ontario and Canada, probably in the world. So we just have more regulations than anybody else.
Merv has a
Go ahead, Merv.
Well, I was just kind of playing the devil's advocate here. We know what we have in reserves for this, but if we're a municipality that didn't have any reserves and they had to close a landfill and they'd be looking at the government for grants to help them do this. That's what I'm saying. I'm kind of thinking they're trying to get away from is, of course, municipalities is to have some end of life fund.
But we're regulated too right now.
Okay.
I don't know if everybody does it. We're
Sounds
regulated.
good, so it sounds like, thank you for
Go
the
ahead, John.
policies.
That was all Sandra had. Go ahead.
I move that Sandra not be allowed to retire.
Okay, I second that emotion. All right, thanks, Sandra. Always a pleasure. And again, I'm sorry for the confusion over the 2023 statements. Annette, take it away.
Annette has a long list.
Okay. So, I added, in here, not much about Roma because a lot of it was in your report and Tracy reported on some, so I didn't add, much more to that, but, there were some really interesting sessions, for sure on women's, on the Water Enabling Fund coming up and, on energy as well. I guess they're having quite a few things in zoning for the battery farms.
Yep.
So that was it. That was an interesting session. We haven't seen anything here. but I know Bruce at the county is working on something for that, so, I touched base with him afterwards. We had a good discussion on it. Funding applications, I mean, Sarah's been working her butt off with, all the different things that have been coming forward. So we continue to work on that. We're working with Daryl and, our consultants for the enabling, the water and wastewater funding. So we continue to work with that. We also spoke to MPP John Yakubuski about it, so we have, his blessing on that one, and, it's not due until April, but we're continuing to get those ducks in a row because it basically has to be shovel ready. So we'll have some discussions at budget time in March before we have to submit it in April, because basically what it means is we're gonna have to spend some big dollars even before we submit, because if we get the funding, we have to be able to tender it before the end of the year. We won't be ready to tender it if we don't do some surveys and some geological stuff, but we'll have that discussion at budget. So working on more and more funding. So the lease for Spring Creek is attached. Yeah, I went through it with our insurance for any risks, went through it with the lawyers. And so, and they saw, the other side signed. So we're ready to go, and if it passes, then I'll bring it back to council in March, and it'll start as of March 1st, and we'll start invoicing them.
There's no resolution for it this evening, but I was happy with it.
Yeah, I have no issues.
Okay, well, the other side signed it, so I can bring it back March 5th, and we'll still build them for March 1st and keep tracking.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
So, they're on board.
Don't say it.
Yeah, so, community safety wellbeing plan, I know that's, not, anyway, it's attached there. So what we've done is added portions to it on our implementation teams. So they're meeting quarterly, for housing and for, mental health and all the various issues that sort of have been identified by the community safety wellbeing plan. This is our last year for funding those implementation teams. We're having a wellness get together up at the John Yakubuski Arena in Paul Yakubuski Arena in Barry's Bay. So hopefully everybody comes out to that, and we can again connect the community with all the service providers for health, mental health, all those things, because we had one in Eganville. Was that last year?
Yes.
Yeah, so and it was well attended, and it had quite a few different booths available. So hopefully that will go well, and again bring some more attention to what people's needs are and the agencies that can support them. Strategic plan is there. So we did meet with the senior leadership team, and we went through the mission statement that was chosen from, I sent it to council and all of our employees. So that was the one that was supported, which is the one we currently have. And then we went through all of the different objectives that were chosen after our workshop day and touched base with all the department heads and said, who's championing this? What are we doing? So I think we've got some really concrete examples of action items that we're going to put together to make sure we meet those objectives.
So I thought it was amazing, by the way, that he managed to encapsulate all the things that we said, amalgamate some of the things that we said into general themes, and then put together a draft. But I was shocked that we are keeping our old mission statement. But you know what?
If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Right, if it works, it works.
Yep.
Why are you looking at me when you say that, Brent? No, I was impressed, and I think that it was a great day. I think that council and staff got all their thoughts out into the universe, where he was able to sort of say, yes, Tracy and Sandra, those match up, and we're going to put them in this theme. So I think it's going to be a great strat plan when all is said and done.
Okay, so yeah, so I'll leave it with the council if you have any final comments or whatever on it before we post it to the website and sort of let everybody know this is the directions that we're headed in.
No, I think it's not, I had no concerns or issues with it, and we discussed it, and it's pretty much right on the objectives. That's what I printed out, just because I like it because it narrows the lens a lot. It allows us all to focus on the same goals, and it really just streamlines what our actual missions are, and you can go through here It's like, yes, obviously we want to secure the 1 million funding, and you go through it, just.
That was, yeah.
Yeah, no. it's-
Like,
it's-
well,
no, but like, it just
if that's
refocuses
what-
the lens, so then when we're at budget time and everything's so expensive, like, go back to the basics.
Yeah.
And the basics is what we need to provide, and we need to ensure we do it well, we need to do with mission, and then obviously we're policymakers at this table, and then rely on the staff to operate and get her done, and I think it's nice that we can all be on the same page and know what our next 4 years is gonna look like.
But I like that we benchmarked it too.
Exactly, yeah.
right?
What's the next steps actually on the plan in terms of deciding the tactics and then execution?
So they're in the plan,
Mhm.
under each of the objectives, it sort of says,
You said
So-
a year.
so if I check,
It's-
actions to achieve these objectives, so, one of the objectives was to secure $1 million in funding per year in grant funding, so the advocacy and grant opportunities was objective 1. So secure the funding, lobby for strategy with the key audience, and then, our having an agenda when we go to conferences, so the actions to achieve those are to apply for $1 million in funding, which we're doing every year. Meet with MTO to discuss cloud drivers and.
Yeah, I read all that. I mean, for us as a group, like in terms of like just deciding on the tactics or execution, is that
It's,
coming up?
I
with
think
our-
it's more about exactly what Brent just said, like when we're making policy, when we're doing budgets, how do those fit into our strategic plan?
Mhm.
When our staff bring ideas to the table, how do those fit into our strategic plan? And so since we've revamped ours at the county, one of the things staff has done is when they bring
Mhm.
part of their report, they'll say, this fits into strategic goal number 3. And so I think that they have to align, and so that we're all on the same path and we're not, here, there and everywhere with things that we're trying to accomplish with a very small budget, with a very small staff, with a very small council.
Well, it's,
Yeah, I'm just asking as a new
Yeah.
counselor in terms of, are we going to take that now and develop a greater plan or tactics to support the
well,
objectives?
on my end, it's something, it's a document we reflect back to on every decision we make at the table.
Okay.
So it's like, for example, it's like the presentation today, it's like, okay, we can invest 5 or 10,000 into the machines or whatever, or we actually put that towards, or one of our objectives, which is one of our priorities that we put forward as well.
I'm
like it's
coming
like-
from the private sector.
Have everything in line.
Sorry.
Well, private sector's it's a similar way, in the
No.
sense that.
No,
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 You have your objectives and you have to operate in your objectives or your
like, this
operation.
is more reactive than private sector would be. They would have their plans forward for the year, right? So, for instance, branding.
Yeah, but
Oh,
these,
no.
but these ones put it forward anyways, like you have from the 2024 to the 2026 to the 2028 goals.
No, like we're talking about, for instance, branding, BV is marketing branding is part of our strat
Mhm.
plan.
Yeah, number four.
So how are we going to proactively?
We're
do something
waiting
like
on,
that?
we're waiting on the grant.
So, yeah.
If we get the grant
So it has the different actions in there.
Yep. and
for-
dates,
And dates for seeking the funding and working on a drone video with lighting local businesses and events, continuing to fund our CIP, and creating a welcome package for newcomers. So I think these are all things that are in the works now that we're doing. But I would say, yeah, if there's something else that comes forward, so, I think March Madness is a good example of it. So the museum and yourself worked, to bring that forward. And that's something we're continuing to work on, and we're continuing to use, and we're continuing to develop and make sure that it's supported, because it does enhance the Bossier Valley Township brand, right? The murals,
Mhm.
I think also, go forward with that. The grants that we've applied on for Spot On to get the tour going of the murals, so we're enhancing what we're already working towards. So soon, if there's another idea or something else that comes forward, or a policy or whatever, that this supports our strategic plan to enhance it might not be one of the specific actions that's in there now, because we don't know of it yet. But we can say, no, this supports what we've been trying to do. So I think as long as you look at those objectives and say, does this support that? Then I think it comes back to the table, whether it's a budgetary item or whether it's a policy or whether it's a discussion. Is that sort of what you're asking?
Yeah, I guess I'm just looking, again, I'm speaking probably from the private sector in terms of like tourism strategy. Where do we go with that right now? As one example,
Yeah, so that's.
so that's part of it, but
supporting our farming community. you know,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
key areas.
Yeah, so I think
But
that's where.
If you wanna enter comments.
Yeah, yeah,
like,
for sure.
We've had the draft, so
Yeah, I'm just thinking of just the plan now to execute, but if it's, like, there wasn't any further
Well, we-
workshopping. some of
we
these
have the
things.
dates that we're sort of expected to align this strategy with.
Mhm.
So we need to keep an eye on those, but I think that he's given us a framework where, again, if we have to pivot, if there's something else we wanna do, how does it fit in to those objectives that Brent
Yeah.
printed out?
So like seeking funding is one of the actions, seeking funding for the tourism strategies is one of the actions under the BDT brand. So, you know, it's to fund our tourism strategy. So we've got a tourism plan, and the tourism plan says you need to find ways to have more experiential tourism in Gulf Valley. That's what it says. That's one of the action items. That's what we're supposed to do. We can't afford that. We don't have any way to do that. So seeking the funding, which we've already done, we've already applied for, we're already moving forward with that. So that's one of the ways, like, we're taking it right from strategic plan says support BDT tourism, says go back to the tourism strategy. Oh, here's one of the action items. How do we get this done? Well, we have to find funding first. Okay, well then step one is funding. If we get the funding, step two is to implement some experiential tourism in North Valley Township.
It's where I made that mistake when we got all the stuff from Sarah, and I thought she was bringing it to us because we already got the funding. Put the cart before the horse. I got all excited.
Mhm. So,
Herb, did you have anything on the strat plan?
No,
Okay. Anything else? All right, next, planning.
planning, oh yes, and the union did notify us that they
Oh, yeah.
are intend to initiate collective bargaining process, so I don't have any dates or anything yet, but the current contract ends at the end of April, so I assume before then, we'll be in negotiations and we'll come forward to council with what those results are for a vote. Planning, yes, so,
Go ahead, John.
So
oh, sorry,
negotiating on council side of the table would be yourself and legal representation or?
We don't negotiate for the union. We have nothing to
Oh,
do with
nothing to
it.
do with it, okay. So
Absolutely.
that's between you and a ministry?
and myself and the union, so, what will happen is the union, has a representative. And then, from the larger organization of QP, and then they probably will have 2 employees, out of our public works department, because that's the only union we have. Who will come into the table, and then it'll probably be Jason and myself. You know, if we need outside assistance, from legal or something else, we can do that. We already have a conciliator, appointed by the ministry, but I don't know that we will need that individual. I'm not expecting it to be a rough negotiation. I'm really not. I think it will go well, but you never know till you get into it.
Now that's on the record.
No, yeah. We deal with wording changes first, just to make sure the contract is more, anywhere that was confusing, make sure it's as clear as possible, and then we deal with money. So when we get to that stage, then, usually what I do is I'll talk to council in closed and kind of say, tell me what my limits are. So I can go negotiate and I don't have to keep running back to you. And then if we can't reach something within those limits, then, I will come back to you in closed again and say, I can't stay within those limits. Here's where I'm at and here's my recommendation, and we'll go from there. So,
And then it turns into a budget problem for
Yes.
council.
yes.
No, thank you. I just wanted that clarification. I do not want a chair at the table.
And it does
Nor
impact,
can you.
I know.
it does impact the entire organization because of pay equity, of course. Because we do have females in this office that are comparators to the males in that office, so it's, yeah. Anyway. So planning services. So we do have a shared services agreement that we signed with the County of Renfrew, to provide planning services, for us, which I think is working very well.
It is.
A lot of other townships, have either have planners on staff that are quite costly, or, you know, are desperately seeking, planners and unable to find them. And so, I think we've got some good advice at a very good price, coming from our planners, and them coming into our office once a month is really working out. quite a lot of people taking advantage of that. It's, yes, we have to pay a little bit of mileage, but other than that, it's a free service. It's on the county levy, but it's for Bon Cheval Valley not to have to drive up to Pembroke and to be able to come in and chat with Ann, and she brings up the maps and she'll walk you through a lot of the process. Is great.
Not even have a planner here, but to have a subject matter expert,
Yes, absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So we're getting the best of both worlds.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Yeah, and staff also, you know, if we have a question, there's, you know, somebody's asked something of us to have her easily, they're easily accessible by phone and email. But sometimes face to face, looking at the same map is just, it works out really well. So, at the end of the day, county did also put in a fee for service for a general inquiry form, which is a specific form through the county of Renfrew that gives you written documentation of what you'll need to do for what specifically you're asking to do. And previously that was at no charge, but the discussion we had at the table was, do we want to recoup that fee? So it's $200, and right now we have not recouped it. So what we said was, okay, well, let's see how many we have a year. I suspected it cost us about $2,000 a year. Last year did not cost us that because it was only half a year. And so we were at, I think we were at 600 last year.
200.
Oh,
We're at 600
We were
this
at
year.
200,
Yeah.
and we're at 600 this year.
Yeah.
So, you know, that could be because we maybe had some in the queue already before the charge had come through. So I suspect we'll probably spend at least $2,000, which will be a budgetary item. And so really my ask of council is, are we okay with continuing to provide that service? I want to say free of charge to our residents, but it's not really free of charge because it's still on the levy. Or do we want to recoup that in our fees and services bylaw for a general inquiry form? Now, you can get it back if you go forward with so if our resident does go forward with severance or zoning bylaw application or whatever they do, it can be recouped from those fees. You know, we could charge them the full and take the rate off. But if they don't go through with it, because let's say the general inquiry form said you need to have a really big environmental study that's going to cost you a lot of money, and you decided, no, I no longer want to go through with this project, then it's the cost is there.
So the $200 is to ante up to get into the game.
That's right. That's right.
Basically, yes.
Yeah, and we don't have a planner, so yeah.
Okay.
And it was very well utilized at the county when it was free. I don't know what the utilization is right now. I don't sit on that.
It's less. It's a lot less.
I'm not surprised. Now, is it a lot less because people were testing the waters? For me, I was thinking this is a great thing because if I go with my idea and a planner at the county says, well, I'm sorry, you've got an endangered species or a wetland or what have you, then I haven't spent any money and I haven't filled out paperwork. But on the flip side, it was making our planning department at the county extremely busy.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm
Busy in recent years or busy, like, was it just, it kept being busy or just, because I remember us talking about this in, I think it was the fall, I think we originally talked about, obviously we're in opposition towards it, but it went through and this is what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
yes,
But is this because there's a lot of real estate transactions during like 2020, 2022?
no, this was
ongoing before.
a little bit before, but more on the severance and
severance.
building side, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well, each applicant comes in and they have something they want to accomplish. It may have a fiscal result, or it may just have a convenience result or an inheritance result. So it's reasonable for them to ante up, get in the game. That's what we're doing.
I would say
And-
keep.
And we don't need to, we shouldn't have to bear that cost as either a county or a municipality.
okay, I just want to be cards on the table. I voted against taking away the free at the county.
Okay.
Obviously I was outvoted because it went through and that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
I had my reasons and other people had their reasons for wanting it in place. It is a fee for service, as Annette very astutely just said, it's not free. it sits on the back of the levy payers. So somebody is paying for it.
Right.
I was just thinking of it more as for our municipality, it wasn't a lot of money. And I know, small things can add up, but I was thinking more in terms of, is it better in the long run if people can, sever, build, etc., and that adds to the levy? So I was sort of thinking more long-term rather than let's get your $200 right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
But
like I would say just, like the 2,000 is planning to be in the budget, so I would say keep it and then keep it so that the cost is on us. It's the long-term projection of it. Like that's the thing, I don't want people to be paying for something they never had to pay before. So-
well, and I think that we've said this over and over and over again,
And I
we're
think it-
pro-growth.
Well, exactly, you
Right.
can't be pro-growth, and like that was literally one of my comments I wrote down, said it's funny that we keep talking about being pro-growth in, say, the county, but we keep putting more and more charges on, so it's anti-growth because you're making everything cost more, it's like eventually it's gonna be absorbent amount of money to develop anything, and then no one's gonna wanna develop anything, and you have no housing, and that's one of the things that came out of our well-being plan. There is no housing in the well-being plan, it's like, yes, we know that, there is no housing, so why are we making it more expensive to do it? So no, I'm good. We have the 2,000 allocated. We'll track the fund. No different than how we did the lifeguard fund and utilization at the Pembroke pool. I think it makes sense. It's good service that we provide and we've always provided it. So.
Thoughts?
I'm still learning. That's good.
But my intention was not to change your mind, it was just to give you
No, no.
my perspective.
Yeah, it's good.
I was playing the long game.
Yeah,
So
I
we'll
agree.
keep it as is then, and we'll keep it on, as a budgetary item as opposed to a fee for service at this time.
And I think that this should be a year over year discussion, depending on if the budget is all of a sudden.
Well, it's something it's just something that we continue, we track. Because it's something that this was put onto us, it was downloaded actually to us technically. So like, this is something that we have to monitor
Yeah.
and see, it's no different than the lifeguard program, we monitor it with Pembroke. We monitored it and then looked at it, and then we'll look at the budgetary constraint for the following year. And it might change year on year, but if you keep having development from that $200 fee, that's great. That's what you want, because that's long-term growth in municipality.
And there is, like, when you do come and meet with them, that is the only, and again, it's a free planning advice. The residents can still come for that. It doesn't cost us anymore. Obviously, it's on the county levy, but it's there anyway because she's working regardless. But the fact that she's here one day a week to serve our community is great. And I think that's, we're definitely telling people that that's your first step, like before
Yeah.
you go and do that, which is gonna cost the residents $200, come and talk with Ann and make sure that there aren't a whole bunch of hurdles, because if they then go through with whatever development they came up with, then we get to recoup the 200, right? So.
Right.
And we've been,
yeah.
in her schedule while she's here has been occupied like fully.
Yeah, but not fully, but.
But a lot.
I was close to,
Yeah,
no,
very
that's
close,
exactly
yeah.
what we want, because if not, we'd be putting in our newsletter you could say it's a great resource that we're having locally, that you don't have to drive to Pembroke to go and utilize, so.
Yeah.
It's funny, the things that I think I'm not going to get phone calls about or emails about, like the things that we do that don't sort of make mainstream media, maybe, like painting the lines for parking downtown, and Ann McVean being here. I cannot believe the amount of outreach I've had for those, seemingly off I can't think of the right term, but you know what I'm saying, like things that I think, oh yeah, that makes sense, let's do that. And then those are the things that people really appreciate. I had a woman that's down the road from me that had lofty goals. She came in, she met with Ann said, well, no, you can't do that, but you can do this and this and this. And that woman said, Ann's idea of where to put Bill was actually better. So she's an excellent resource to have. And I hate to sort of pick on Ann. Our planning staff of the county is amazing. They're all amazing. But she really is a resource. Having her in this office is really a great
Well,
service.
it goes hand in hand with the pro-growth strategy. Like, that's
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
you need growth
Yeah.
you need growth on our budget every single year.
Yep,
And we had 50 people meet with her last year, so that's not nothing.
it's
You
not.
know, and some of them came in more than one, I didn't count them more than once, but some of them came back. So, she had more than 50 meetings, but there were 50 separate people that she met with and then staff at various times, so.
And then how do we actually book for that? Like, is that booked
Just call
for
here.
you?
You just
Okay.
call here, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you mean have people book with her?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just call here and it is in our newsletter. It says what dates that she's coming and to give us a shout or email us. So,
Okay.
yeah.
No,
I think it's very user friendly as well when people can actually look at the map. Like you can tell somebody, well, you have a wetland on your property, so you can't build that building there. But when they see it on a map and you outline, well, but you can do this, it's a different experience, I think, for the property owner.
oh, the GIS mapping's like software, it's
It's-
fantastic. It's really user friendly. I use it all the time.
Are you paying for it?
No, I use the public one all the time.
Yeah.
I don't have the privilege of password, but
The Narc brand out?
Okay, nothing else on planning, eh?
nope.
So bylaw, so I added in my report a breakdown of the number of calls that we had and the type and the costing, as well as some previous years. Now, you gotta bear with, when you're looking at the previous years and you look at 2019, I realize it looks like a serious outlier year, but we had a full-time person in the position in 2019. And, you know, they were doing, bylaw, they were doing health and safety, they were doing emergency management, they were doing other duties. And, when that person unfortunately passed away, but when we lost that employee, what we did is make bylaw part-time. And then, we sort of spread the duties around. So, health and safety got spread around, accessibility was another thing, energy and emergency management. So we were able to sort of spread that between different.
Other duties as assigned.
Yes, yes, so there are some savings there, as well, so just be aware, 2019 is quite an outlier, but I couldn't separate it, that's where it was. But just sort of giving an indication of sort of where we were and where we've come, and the savings, that are there, and the types of calls that we get. So what I would say is out of the 97 calls that we got, last year, and again, this is only last year from April to December, so you're missing the first quarter of the year, but out of the 97 calls that we received, I would say well over half of them have been resolved. So that's good. There are some property standards that continue, but those are difficult to enforce depending on the level of property standard. And so, they take a little bit more time, and sometimes if it has to lead to then an order, then you're dealing with courts, and it can go quite a long time. So those are probably the ones that we have, that are a little bit more, outstanding than the others. So, and of course, and then a couple, the tickets, you know, only see a couple in December, you don't see any the rest of the year. That thing will increase, of course, for this year, because we didn't have him on during the winter last year, and we don't do a lot of tickets through the summer months. I'm not saying we don't do any, but really the winter time is the bigger time for the tickets, so. Yeah, so I don't know, I did meet with Jim. I've met with him maybe 3 times since April. We've had a couple of phone call conversations on some larger issues that came to my attention, which are great. That's, you know, that's sort of what you want, is you want to keep everybody accountable. So, you know, he's been appointed, but if there's issues that council or residents are you know, wanting more of an update on, or not really sure the urgency, like I said, bylaw is a tricky thing. It's not emergency services, but it does impact people's daily lives, so it can feel more urgent than maybe it is, but sometimes it is quite urgent. So you know, asking people to reach out to the office, and anytime that's happened, I've been able to contact Jim, and we've been able to resolve the issue a little bit in a more timely manner where it was necessary, because it was it was going to escalate. The matters might be taken into people's own hands, so better to deal with that a little bit more quickly and sort of say to them like, this is a little bit more serious than something, than, you know, grass that needs to be cut, you know, not that we don't take that serious, but some issues are more serious than that. So, yeah, and continues to sort of keep me updated, and that's sort of what I have on bylaws. So I don't know if there's specific questions. I can certainly try to answer them, and if I can't answer them, I can get them back. And then we've got some bylaws to review, because as I was meeting with Jim, he brought up some, you know, some issues with our current bylaws for enforcement through property standards and yards. And animal control is one that I brought to his attention, because it was a very outdated bylaw, and we've had some issues. So wanted to get that updated. So that was really at my request. And so went through that one with him. And the parking bylaw as well is old, and so I want to get looking at it. But anyway, it just, we ran out of time. So we went through it a little bit, and then I said, well, it's not critical. We're almost done with the season. So I said, let's look at it another time. And the building bylaw one, I think Daryl talked about it before when he was here. So that actually came from our CBO, because he'd be the one enforcing it, not our bylaw. And there's a couple sections in property standards and stuff that are enforced through Committee of Adjustment, which of course is council, and some that are enforced through the fire chief or the CBO. So yes, I reviewed them with him as well. And there's no, you know, the animal control one, I'd like to get passed sooner rather than later. Some of these other ones, you know, if there's comments, concerns, happy to take them back, review them again. We don't have to pass them right away.
Okay, so I'm so glad you said that. Because I printed them because there was a lot of information. Can we have a chat about, I think animal control absolutely needs to be passed sooner than later. But with the other ones, could we submit our notes with that, like, because I've got these things marked up and I'd really like to have them in writing for Annette.
Yeah,
If
that's
everybody
submit
could
it before the next meeting, and then,
bring them back.
yeah, and then also I'd like to like almost have a closed session just to discuss some of the trends we're seeing for like, we're talking the specifics on like your property standards, bylaws, or anything of that nature.
For the 35 outstanding.
Yeah, for the thing, I want to see what the actual trends are, because obviously you don't want to overimpose bylaws with our own.
So I don't think we can have a discussion on trends in closed.
Identifiable individuals that are.
You want specific.
Yeah, I want specifics, and not names or addresses. Areas is fine. It's just, we want to know where we're having actual issues, because we're a complaint-based system and we always have to evolve on that. So I just want to see how we can help better deal with it, that's all.
Oh, okay, but I'm just gonna suggest, I'm not hearing why if we're just talking about areas.
I get no problem talking about in public.
I don't know if we need to go into close for that. That's all I'm thinking.
So then we can do a general overview and just, that's it, then that's fine.
I think it depends how much detail you want. So if you just want to be, maybe you and I'll talk offline on how much detail you want, and then.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because if, I know what you're saying, you don't want names or addresses, but if the information I'm providing is going to make the person identifiable, then yes.
Yes.
But if the information that
it's
I'm providing is not, then we don't.
And it's because we're a complaint-based system.
Yeah,
So the
that's
thing
right.
is if we're imposing more legislation, more laws, then there has to be a rationale for it. So I just
Yeah.
want to see what the actual original concerns are. And
Yeah.
that's about it, and go from there.
And
But the more detail, the better. And
Yeah.
I'd rather in a closed mind, so then we can be open about it, and then it's easier.
Okay, so we'll chat, and you'll tell me the level of detail.
Yeah,
want,
that's
and it
fine.
needs to be enclosed, we can make
Yeah.
that decision, and then did you want Jim here for the discussion?
Actually, that would be great. I would really appreciate that.
Yeah, well, he's the one that's facilitating dealing with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
so.
Okay,
John?
So asking Jennifer, out of the 213 pages, which page numbers did you copy for this meeting? I'd like to review them, and I missed it.
Oh my gosh,
You said you
I
copied that
printed-
section.
page 143 to 152. I printed pages 155 to 160. I printed 162 to,
But I have no problem, like the animal bylaw there, that one.
184.
That one was more straightforward, to be honest, the animal like bylaw itself, that was more straightforward and it's more focused. And I was more fine with that, it's more of the property side of it that I'd like to review that on another basis.
Yeah,
But in the
And I
animal,
think that, I don't think knowing the specifics of what Jen wrote down for numbers is good, I think that we all.
no, John wanted to know what I printed.
Oh,
Because
okay.
she asked for comment that might go to Annette. In
Yes,
preparation.
so print them off, read them, and then send your notes.
And you're right, and I'm familiar a bit with the animal control because we were that was one of the first things we dealt with. Some of the other issues I don't have a good background on.
And then definitely
We'll get
take
there.
some time. Perfect.
Okay.
I did have a couple of things on the animal one, though. There is no definition of hobby farm.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think Dave and I are in contravention of this because the farm under does not include just having animals. Apparently we need to raise them for something. Under guide
Compost.
dogs,
Compost, Jen.
which is 3.9. Sorry, hang on, stop making me laugh. There's nothing about emotional support animals.
So I think
Yes.
limited farm is what you're talking about when you're talking hobby farm, intensive farm and a limited farm.
All right,
I
where's
think they're
that?
fine. At the end of the definition of farm, I think they're fine.
Aren't you fine with support animals, Jen, if it
We're
fits
not
into the
fine.
categories?
Well, then what?
I don't know.
But a hobby farm would be a limited farm. So maybe you're not a farm, maybe you just have horses. Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
All right,
What's wrong with that?
all right.
It's
I just
allowed,
don't-
it's allowed under the zoning.
I don't wanna
bylaw.
be in contravention
If
like
you're-
John is with the sea
If
can.
you're
just brought
over
it up
five,
again.
if you're over 5
Yeah, we
acres,
haven't seen that perfect go through, John.
if you're over 5 acres, you can have farm animals. So yeah, I think you're good.
All right,
So are you thinking like a mini cow as
yeah,
a
I don't know.
support,
You don't know.
support animal?
No, so, but it is something that's missing, emotional support animals, and I know that there are specific rules. And when I read guide dogs, I thought immediately about emotional support animals. Under 4.5,
Hang on, hold on, sorry. Where are you getting the guide? So.
3.9. Page 1, oh, I don't know what your pages are,
that's
cause
fine.
I
No,
printed
got it.
them on,
146.
John,
Yeah.
I printed them on 8.5 by 11, not legal.
Okay.
Oh, I see, okay.
So my numbers might be off for you.
But
So that's just talking about the licensing though, right? That's just saying that guide dogs who are under the Blind Persons Rights Act do not have to be licensed.
I know, but then they can go places that other dogs can't go.
True,
I don't know, something about that.
but this is just licensing. Section 3 is just what dogs have to be licensed and what don't.
So
I
an
know.
emotional support animal, does it need to be licensed? If it's,
I think it should.
yeah,
Under here, yes, it's just the guide dogs. that are
But
exempt.
then if you have an emotional support animal and it goes to the arena with you, it's got its vest, but it's also, I don't know, it
So
was just a
not-
thought.
I just want to be clear, the guide dogs need to be licensed, but they don't need to pay for the licensing fee because it's under the Blind Persons Rights Act.
Isn't there something for emotional support animals like that?
No, we can put that in here, but no, they would have to pay for the $30 license for the life of their
Right.
animal.
We're a complaint-based system, we'll rely on that.
Okay,
Okay.
If you run an issue on that, we'll make a friendly amendment in future years.
these are just
No,
comments
no,
that I-
I'm just, yeah, that's good, okay.
Okay, so the animal control officer or bylaw enforcement officer and any person appointed by the township may enter and inspect any place where the dogs are kept at any reasonable time pursuant to this bylaw.
What number?
4.5,
Thank you. So
under
this is-
kennels,
Yes, so for kennels, yes, for kennels, yeah,
that should not mean interior of a home, though, that should just be the kennel, right? I just wrote interior question mark. I can send these to you, though.
mhm. Yeah, any place where the dogs are kept. Like if it's a kennel, there's specifics on what you have to have for a kennel. So any place where those dogs are kept. Now, if your kennel is in your home,
That-
yeah, we're coming in.
Okay. That, okay, I wanted,
It's probably gonna be a lot of things that come forward, to your point, right? to address.
yeah, no, I
They
just,
happen.
Mm.
Like kangaroos for.
5.5 is kind of clunky.
5.5.
Just that, obviously, dogs defecate on public property, but it has to be removed. This says that they can't defecate on public property.
Unless
Oh, I see. Yeah.
designated.
It's just clunky.
Yeah.
Dogs shall not defecate on commonly shared or private property. On public property, it shall be removed and disposed of.
Yeah, got it.
Okay. I just put arrows all over the place. Impoundment under 6.4, it says redemption period, but there was no definition of redemption period.
Sorry, which number?
6.4.
6.4.
Wouldn't that be pursuant of our agreement with SPCA?
But I thought it should be in there,
So just a reference. book.
just a reference, yeah,
Okay, then it's 3 days.
yeah.
Okay.
That's all I have on that one. I'll send you my notes on the other one, and then that gives you guys, yeah,
The foster one too was interesting and it being a legitimate foster
right?
through a through a rescue
What number is
That
that?
was under,
and having people prove it, right?
yeah,
Such as the last case we had.
Oh, foster, yes, means
Yes.
individual who has been approved by a rescue organization of foster, yes. So you're okay with that definition?
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting because it may come up, that one.
No,
right?
yeah.
They have to be a legitimate foster and not just say, hey, I'll take your animal.
right.
Watch them while you're gone. Yeah.
So Merv, you're okay with reading and submitting your comments for our next meeting?
Yes,
Excellent. Everybody's happy. I apologize for giving you the wrong pages, but if you print them on 8.5 by 11, they are the right pages.
But,
That'll work.
so the animal control bylaw, other than those two changes to 5.5 and 6.4, is good?
Yeah,
Okay, then I will send it to, have the short form wording, approved. And if they get back to me in time, I'll bring it back on the 5th.
and I really like the list, by the way. I think that works very well.
Yeah, that came straight from the, zoo lady.
It's.
Her name is Michelle.
She is not the zoo lady. She is from the
There's zoo in the
wild,
title.
let's give her a real title here. Let's find her real title.
She's helping,
We met with her
Yeah.
and she is
Yeah.
World Animal Protection,
okay.
Michelle Hunters.
Yeah, it
Yes.
was Michelle.
Yes.
So the animal one you're gonna bring forward for the next meeting, and then we're gonna comment on the yards,
Correct.
properties,
Yeah.
building.
And I'll-
Yes.
And submit all their submissions.
And
for
then I'll
that
bring it back in
individually,
draft.
separately.
So this one will come back in bylaw form,
Okay.
if I get the short wordings approved in time, and the other ones will just come back in draft again.
So our next meeting would be March 5th. So
Yeah.
if we, when do you want all the comments to you?
Yeah, if I can get the end.
When do you-
Yeah, so the
when-
package,
When would
the
you like
package
them?
goes
to-
out on the, well, the package goes out usually on the 29th.
Yeah.
So if I could have them by then, that's great. If I have them after that, then they won't come till the second meeting in March, which
So-
again, I don't think is the.
Well, if we aim to have them, so within.
By the 29th?
If everyone has them, yeah, to the 27th, gives time to be put into the package if necessary.
the most important one is the animal one for sure, though.
Mhm. But yeah, no, I just like to review these.
Perfect. Yep. You gotta start somewhere, so bring forward for any comments.
Perfect.
I think maybe I'll go through and make better notes than I did on the animal one, because apparently I had great intention when I made the notes. And now I'm looking at some of them thinking, not sure what I meant by that.
Well, it just means we're trying to avoid being like an Orwellian society or anything like that, right? So
Good
these-
reference.
not bad,
Good
eh?
reference,
You
yeah.
want 1984 restaurant?
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And the strat plan too, like if you have.
I think
comments
Animal
before
Farm
it
is
goes
more
back on
appropriate.
the 29th, I can
Yeah.
always bring it back on the
Okay,
5th.
great.
It's not the end of the.
I do have
You know,
July
that's
questions
fine.
on that.
Yeah, that's great. You know, I can, if there's any major changes, I can bring it back as well. I don't think there was a panic to get it on the website. But community safety wellbeing plan can go ahead on the website, right?
Yep, exactly.
Sorry, I had to say it one more time, sorry about that.
That was almost a spit take.
Sorry about that, sorry. Okay. So the next policy, oh, sorry, the building bylaw. Are you giving me comments back on that one as well?
I don't feel that that's in my wheelhouse to give you comments on the building bylaw, but I'll read it.
Okay,
I mean, I read it, but I'll print it and properly read it,
Okay.
but
okay, so I'll pause on that one as well.
Mhm.
it seems like it's above our pay grade.
Yeah, it's not very, really, it's if you built without a permit, there's now a $200 fine. That's, I mean, there's obviously
Yes.
more to it than that. Okay, well, I'll let you review that then and I'll wait for comments and go from there. The use of employee-owned vehicles for work, that policy, did we, is that one all right to come ahead at the next meeting?
I was actually surprised we didn't have one before because we've talked about it previously. We just never actually put one in place because I guess
Mhm.
previously, I know under previous CBO contracts, that was part of the arrangements.
Yeah.
Within it. Well, with this, is this more to do with like a roads department use like the grader and they go and drive and use the grader for the day and then bring it back? Or like, when is this gonna be more applied?
So, yeah, so we have in our human resources manual, we have a section that talks about, not using township vehicles for personal use.
Of course.
We also have, if you have to use your own personal vehicle, to go to something, then you are covered under our insurance. So, if I'm going to a conference and I'm using my own car and something happens, I can, anyway.
Mhm.
But we don't have something that says, if I use my vehicle for work, I'm going to a conference, I'm going wherever I'm going, whatever I'm doing, and I do something stupid. I speed, I don't know what I did, whatever I do, and I damage my car. We don't have anything that says that the township insurance is, because I am using it for work. I'm using my personal vehicle for work. However, I'm being stupid about it. There's nothing that says I can't come back to the township and say, you're going to fix my car because this happened to me while I was at work. So what this is saying is if you're using your personal vehicle for work, that's fine, you are covered. However, if you do something that causes damage to your vehicle of your own, broke a highway traffic act, I don't know what you did, you were speeding, you did something that was irresponsible, even though you were on the job, we're not covering you. So when you bring a vehicle to work, you have to make sure that it's maintained properly, you have to make sure it has insurance, you have to make sure of all of these things, or as your supervisor, I could say to you, that's not really a safe vehicle to be on the road, so you're not going to be using that vehicle for work, because when you're driving down the road and I don't know, your tire falls off, or I don't know what happens to your vehicle because you didn't maintain it properly and it causes a whole bunch of damage, but you were working on my time, I'm not covering that. So that's really what this policy is for, because we don't have it in place. Incidents sometimes happen where people are not, either not maintaining their vehicle's property or doing silly things that they
I was
shouldn't
more
do.
just, I was more just curious because I actually thought we already had a policy for it, but I guess not. That
No,
would have been a
it's- you're
case by
right.
case because I know especially during COVID, when we had our works employees specifically, they had to take separate vehicles
Yeah.
and stuff, so we had more people utilizing their own vehicles.
Yes, so
So-
we don't have one,
Oh,
so.
okay, no, that's,
That's all it's covering, is that if you're gonna use
Yeah.
your personal vehicle, for work, and I'm covering you for that, I wanna make sure you're using it responsibly and it's properly maintained.
So it's a care and control clause.
Yeah.
Which makes perfect sense.
Mhm.
We do have firefighters though there is,
And this will be on, they will
Yeah.
have to sign this policy, and if their vehicles are not up to par, or if they are not behaving appropriately behind the wheel, if something happens, they will not be covered. And if the vehicle is really not maintained, yeah, it's going to be up to their supervisor to say, you can't take that vehicle to a fire scene.
I didn't have any issues with the policy and wording. I was more just I was trying to learn the historical of it because I've actually thought we had it and like that, no,
No, but
fine,
you are
I'm fine with
absolutely right.
I'm fine with the policy, how it stands and stuff, and it makes sense why we're putting it in.
No, but when we have employees in certain positions that use their own vehicles, you were right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just don't have a blanket.
No, sounds
Yeah.
good. Merv, you had a comment?
Yeah, I agree with the policy because the previous bylaw enforcement officer was using his car exclusively. And this covers all that. I mean, it covers more than just going to a conference on your car. If we ever have another situation where an employee uses their own car for employment purposes for a period of time, I think it covers that.
Yeah, like we'll cover you if everything is good and something happens to you, absolutely. We're not trying to get out of that. If you're working for the township, we want to cover you, but if you're working for the township and things are not quite the way they should be, we just want to make sure we're covered to be able to say to the employee, nope. We're not putting, if you pop a tire by driving over a culvert or doing something, we're not covering it. Sorry.
Okay, there are flaws in this plan. I mean, my vehicle could look like it just came out of the showroom and I could have a loose ball joint and drive through a pothole and my wheel could come off. There are flaws in the plan.
Yes, but you're gonna
But-
sign off that you maintain it properly with a mechanic and blah, 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 blah. Now, if you don't, that's,
I'm married to one, I can't promise that. Go ahead,
Yeah.
John.
Sorry, so this, as you bring this forward for us to consider, this is a policy,
Yes.
not necessarily a bylaw.
It will be
No,
passed
see,
by
but
bylaw at the next meeting.
It protects us
If we're
or
okay with
protects
it,
the
yeah.
township from, okay.
Yeah, it's a protection for us should something happen that the employee has now signed off on it and they understand. Like at this point, there's nothing. So they,
Yes.
at least this is something, and once they sign off, then we can, as supervisors, we can enforce it. Not saying we need to, might never come up,
Yeah.
but what it
And
does.
I'm assuming that you'll look around and there'll be sort of other examples that we can use for our purposes that'll meet legal standards, okay?
Yeah, like, we're not we're not taking off your tires, and I know what you're saying. We're not like,
I'm
You know,
just saying.
we're gonna do a circle check, and we're gonna be like, yeah, the vehicle looks pretty good. And you know what, if you pop a tire off while you're working for us, we're probably paying for it, unless I can see the part laying on the ground, and I go, what is this? This is rusted to crap, this is
Yeah,
on
it's
you.
your it's your insurance policy
Yeah,
that supports
absolutely.
or dictates to, it's just common.
I'm just teasing her. I can't tease Annette, you
No,
know?
no fun, Jen, this is
I-
a serious.
I know, it's
Okay.
very serious.
So, are we okay if I bring it back by bylaw at the next?
Yeah,
meeting?
that's
So
Yes.
this policy and the ARO policy will come back, and the animal control, but everything else I'm looking for comments on.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Yes,
Oh, yes, Murph, go ahead.
yes,
Yes, all right.
Okay.
So let's do community development
Yep,
and then we're gonna take a break.
okay.
Thank you.
So everything here, you can see it's on, Kevin had the March Madness out, there's lots, going on, with all the different organizations. Just got a small report there on Canada Day and Music in the Park, which is going really, really well. So we had some discussions because we had a tough time, last year. And so we put it out there again and we kind of said like, are we gonna still do Wednesdays and Fridays? We're gonna cut it down to one day a week. What are we gonna do? Anyway, we've had a great pickup so we're just gonna carry on. However, the one thing that we did decide to do is that when it's raining, we were moving it to the Eagle's Nest, and we find people when it's raining, no one comes. So we're moving the performer to the Eagle's Nest, they're playing for nobody. So that's a little silly to have staff around and have them and there's nobody there.
Yeah.
And so what we've decided is that if it's raining, even though we used to post, if it's raining, it's moving here. People just didn't carry on over there. So I think we're gonna stop doing that. If the weather is bad, we'll just we will post it out there and say, I'm sorry, it's canceled by 2 o'clock, let's say, on Wednesdays and Fridays, it's
Yeah.
canceled, and we're not moving it. So
No, that makes sense.
yeah.
Makes sense to me.
A lot simpler, so.
Yeah.
yeah, so, the welcome guides, so, we're
You're
just
good?
working on a couple
Yeah,
of
I
things.
provided edits and I have to
Perfect.
provide a couple more.
Okay, perfect. The banners, so, still working on the changes to those. We're just gonna put those in the March report. And, EACDG is still meeting and
We're-
talking about what they're,
I don't wanna. I think that we're going to move to event-based,
Mhm.
fundraising event-based. But we're not, we haven't made a concrete decision, so I don't wanna say that, but we have an idea for a couple of things this year, one bigger than and one smaller, but I'll report on that after our next meeting, which I just realized now is Health Committee Day at County.
Oh, are you asking us to move a meeting?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
It's EACDG. I'm not asking you. to
Oh, I
do
thought it was
anything.
council. I was
No,
lined up for that.
no, you were waiting on it.
It's
I
like March
know.
4th, you said Jen did not change any meetings this year.
I asked very nicely.
so Craft Hockeyville, we did put in a submission from the township. I think a few staff members put in different stories, so, vote for, I don't know if voting's closed, I know stories are
No,
closed on the
they- and they
18th, I don't know
want
if voting's
stories.
closed now.
All of us, but I don't,
They had to be in by February 18th.
but I didn't have any.
Okay,
Like,
well, the township submitted,
some of their stories, some of
Yeah.
people's stories are amazing.
Yeah.
Like Chris Hinsberger's was.
Yeah.
It was a tome of amazing
Yeah.
memories. I didn't play hockey and I didn't figure skate and I didn't grow up here, so it was tough. But
So,
yeah.
we tapped into some staff and we got some really good comments, so, I don't know if you can still like them or what you can do, but, we'll look into that again and I'll get Sarah to post if there's able to do this. You can see the applications, so, the GICB, we were notified that we're not, successful in that one. So we're pulling out of the Green Municipal Fund. There's not much point in applying for 25% when we didn't get the 80%. And I'll report on, Rural Transit Solutions, later. And I think the rest, we're still waiting to hear from, but I expect us to get some. We've had some response back from the emergency preparedness as we pass the resolution. And, we also have another capital one for some training center for fire, when we take over the space upstairs. So, they've come back to us multiple times with questions. So
I'm
whether
dying
that's
to
good or
know.
bad, I don't know.
What the preventing auto thefts grant was.
Yeah, so I think that was for some education, I think, some speed signs, different things, because we were looking at maybe getting some more speed signs, so we kind of threw that in there to say, if people knew, I don't know, so we threw in the different stuff, because it could sort of track how much traffic, and I don't know, we put in some electronic stuff, maybe it wasn't speed signs, but it was
I was
something.
gonna say, I'm a
electronic.
speed signs.
Maybe it was,
my
maybe it
vehicle
wasn't
for
speed signs, sorry, maybe it was cameras.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I'm thinking thefts, we did put in for speed signs, but that was a
Yes.
different grant, and we didn't get it. This one, you're right, sorry, so maybe some more cameras is what we put.
Yeah, I
knew
was
there
gonna say the speed
technology.
signs is always a revolving
Mhm.
one,
Yeah.
is you have a lot of your underlying
Yeah.
communities,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
It's a good tracker too,
It is.
just for how many volume we get in our municipalities, so it's a good one to keep
Yeah.
on a radar. It's scary, I think it's one of the really important documents. Is like anytime you go for like a commercial mortgage, anything, they always wanna know what's your statistics for people coming through your community, right?
Well, for any infrastructure as well.
Oh, exactly.
Doesn't matter, Bell, Hydro, Enbridge, you name it.
So you see the March Madness calendar there, lots going on there. All the different groups participating and the beautiful, bountiful Bon
I like
Travel
that.
campaign for social media. If you want me to finish, the planning and licensing is pretty short. There's not a whole lot, for emergencies pretty.
There wasn't anything in there.
Yeah, yeah.
No marriages.
So Anne is coming on March 5th, I guess is the main thing out of there. And emergency management, like we nailed it in for the grant, I already touched on that, so. Yeah, unless there's any more
Thank you.
questions, I will
No,
put a pin in that.
Gonna take a 5-minute break,
yeah,
nice.
All right.
Community green initiatives, that was our hope for a charging station.
no,
That's a different one, okay.
Yeah, that was our net zero for the curling club in the arena.
that's what it
Okay.
was.
No,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
everyone was up at the curling club.
Don't ask about the other one.
Okay, I'm gonna put us on mute and turn our camera off. We're just taking a 5-minute break. We'll be right back.
We're taking a tea break. John got off to work.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're at correspondence. Is there anything in correspondence A? Seeing nothing. Correspondence B, number one, I think that we should also pass this resolution.
Yeah, letter support for
Yeah,
number one.
and
Sure.
we are also taking it on at Roma, which is great. Number two, expanding the life of fire apparatus. I also think we should be supporting that.
Yep.
Bridge ban request, that is for Bonashir Inspired Tour. They're asking for it to be placed in kind. Thoughts? Okay, goodbye. I'll see you at 5:30.
Well, part of on our schedule for the year, that's within the designation from the July after the Canada Day to the August long weekend, or does that impact other banners that we're generally get at that time?
So we have the month of May, we have the Women's Support Sexual Assault Center.
Yep.
Yes,
For June, we don't have anything, but we.
We have like a big Canada Day one or something?
No, we don't.
No.
But we could hang up, so the Madawaska Valley Studio Tour runs from July to October. So in the past, we've had it up the entire time. But depending on when the dates are, if theirs is early in July, let's say it's, I don't know what date it is yet, but let's say it's early, because we already agreed to them to put up the banner for them.
Mhm.
So we can sort of make it work between the two tours, what's up, what time, like if theirs is earlier, we could have them up in June, have Inspired up in July, and then have them come back in September before their October.
Yeah, I'm fine.
let's do
Yeah,
that.
I'm fine with that.
We could make it work like that, something like that. Now, those are all, and then other than the races, those are all the banners that we have. But I know, when Sarah was looking into it, it's quite expensive, like, we don't pay for the banners, we hang them up and take them down, but the banners themselves are between $4,000 and $6,000, so that's up to them.
Oh, no,
yeah,
that's
no,
not
no.
us, it's just putting, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't gonna.
I like that idea though.
I think we can make it, we'll find a way to make it work.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's,
If that's-
and I was wondering with Madawaska. So you
Yeah.
answered one of my questions.
It might be a little bit more costly, because it has to come up and down one extra time, but I think if.
And then for like the Tour de Bonachur, did they put up a sign every year?
They haven't, but they may ask, I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah,
Okay.
but, you know.
We'll see when if it comes. Merv, are you okay with that?
Yes,
Okay, great.
Sounds good.
Request for Ogra and Roma to return to combined conference. This request did not come from Ogra. I will tell you that the two conferences explored very different things. Ogra is all about, equipment and road reconstruction, infrastructure in general, lighting, etc. Roma is advocacy, provincial legislation. I don't see it happening as a board member. This request came through our Roma survey as well. Ogra has not sent a request.
Merv,
it was one a number of years ago, and it was all one conference.
Yeah, it was. But considering that Roma alone had 1,900 delegates and they wouldn't all have been crossovers with Ogra, I think it would be very difficult.
I would say just leave it to the tour organization
Yeah,
and then go from
and
there.
Roma is, we have said.
Yep.
It hasn't come. National Farm Union request, we've already dealt with. The OVS show and conference, they requested sponsorship, thoughts.
I said no.
I said no, John.
No.
And Merv.
No.
Okay, and the Youth Wellness Hub as well.
But
Unless somebody wants to do coldest night of the year.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
It's open. Unfortunately, Brent, there's no correspondence C.
Okay, no
All right.
problem. I'll remember that.
Library update.
No, it's pretty straightforward. We'll have our budget and we've set the dates for that and everything like that. So you're doing that on a later date. And then I'll get this to the office just to review. I didn't know how to PDF it, so then I'll add this to the office. I brought my clipboard.
It's on Facebook.
Oh,
It's
is
very-
it? I don't have I don't have
very
Facebook, so
official.
they always give me a physical copy at the meeting, so that's perfect. But no, it's, you know what, the really cool thing, they started doing this every single year.
Yeah.
It's just that it actually puts, so I can share the board, like some sections of the board report on future meetings, but we track it throughout the year and then we always like it then a year. It's a good summary, it's good advertisement for it.
It's
I
a
love it.
great graphic.
I
Yeah,
love it.
no, and
So
you'll,
like,
you'll see up the, like, in the budgets, like, they had very successful, like, community programs this past year, like, they're very scheduling for, like, your authors festival, and they have the tea party that's coming up, I know you went to it last year, John, as well. So like, they have a lot of good momentum moving forward and stuff like that, so it's nice when you see that, like, they had 16,131 visitors
Yeah.
last year, and small library for 2 municipalities, and 478 programs offered. 3,757 program attendance, and then you just go on and on. So I'll share this so you can PDF to council. If it's on Facebook, it probably would be. They're very
well,
technical.
it's very official on your clipboard,
No, it's very official.
but it got a lot of traction on Facebook, believe it or not.
No, and you
Because
know,
it is a great infographic, all the information right there, easy to understand.
well,
Yeah.
and the thing is like, so we actually track, so the users, when we talk about visitors, memberships and all that, and when you break down between the two municipalities, the usage is actually very on par for what our agreements actually are between the two. We've looked at it as well and stuff, so, no. But no, it's, yeah, we'll go from there.
Thank you, Brett. We don't have a museum update because our museum member had to leave for something very important. Our next meeting is March the
Fourth,
fourth,
fifth,
fifth,
Five.
fifth.
okay, fifth.
Media.
I'm just wondering if there's, some major changes in that, like in the property standards and the yards and vacant lots.
Not yet,
High
because we
lot?
haven't
Well,
passed
yeah,
it.
Right, but in the draft.
Yeah, but we haven't agreed to it.
Yeah, but like, are there, major themes of changes that are going, or is it just cleaning up wording or what?
There's not major, changes. It is a wording. It is most definitely a wording thing, but of course, it's making it more enforceable, and the bigger changes are probably more to the rural areas than the villages. And the
Okay.
villages were, the wording for the villages was very, easy to enforce, but what constitutes, in a rural, area, things like that, and a little bit more of the, more stuff to do with the buildings. If they're unsafe or not, and specifically what you have to do. Like if there's a smashed window in a building, what is it that you have to do? And if you don't do it, what is it that will do, and then recoup money back from you, you know what I mean? So a little bit, more specifics, and so, it may not all stay in the bylaws.
That's my
But,
concern,
yeah,
is that it's a draft. And with the draft, we don't know what council will agree to,
No,
or put in, or take out.
yeah,
So,
yeah, but we've had some complaints, and, we've tried to find the section in the current bylaw of how to enforce that. And so that's where we've sort of clarified some of the wording to make those, some of the complaints that we've received easier to enforce, going forward, but, that may not be the direction we receive, but yeah, it is a wording. Is it gonna massively impact you? We're still gonna be complaint based. We're still gonna, we're still, a small municipality that's gonna work with our residents to address any concerns that come forward. But yeah, there's some wordsmithing that, we're waiting on approval for, so. Which
I
may or may
also-
not come.
I also have some process questions.
Mhm.
Like a couple of the things I highlighted
Mhm.
wasn't even, weren't even the items that were enforceable. It was how they're going to be enforced
Yes.
now that we're using an outside company.
Mhm.
And so I had some questions surrounding that.
Mhm.
yeah, no, I understand that it's still a work in progress, but I just, like, I don't have, I guess I could probably find the, current
Mhm.
property standards bylaw and sort of see like
Oh.
what the changes.
Yeah,
I guess we don't have a bold and strikeout.
Yes.
And you're
yes,
not going,
that's-
you're not, the whole thing would be struck
The whole
like,
thing is
nothing
different.
is gonna flow,
Cause
yeah.
I was thinking like, I mean, I know with the comprehensive zoning bylaw, you could see,
Right.
like, this was,
Mhm.
the old stuff, and then this is the new stuff.
Yeah.
You can see this is where things are changing or being added, so that's what I was just sort of curious, like.
Hey, guess what? On Family Day Saturday, that's what I was looking for when I was reviewing it.
Oh, there you go. Saturday, Saturday.
No, the wording is quite different, because our bylaw was quite old, but,
Mhm.
yeah, so we'll see what council has to say, but yeah, I would say there are a lot of wording changes. I'm not looking to make massive process change, but, there are some different methods as well of enforcement, whether it's through administration penalties and liens and, that kind of thing, rather than Provincial Offences Act, because that does
Yeah.
cost us to enforce those.
Mhm.
So, but we'll see what council's interested in amending for how we enforce it and what we enforce specifically.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And, then the last question, like in the correspondence, I see like there's still no letter from Pembroke about the pool funding.
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, just because, as you know, we've been following that story and stuff and.
Really?
Yeah.
You
and-
tell.
Yes, and, it's been stated publicly that they're awaiting, responses.
We
so-
know.
But, so I just wanted to clarify that the municipality has not received
Twice.
a letter of, Yeah, the municipality has not received a letter from Pembroke requesting,
Unless it came in the mail today, no.
but, yeah, okay,
And I have asked my colleagues and they have not received theirs either.
okay. Great, okay, that's it for me today, thank you.
Thanks, Debbie. All right, so at this time, I will ask for a mover to go in to a closed session under Municipal Act, section 239.2 for the purposes of discussing an identifiable individual. Moved by Brent, all in favor? Okay, we're in closed.
Hold on a second.
Annette, get out.
Okay, so,
Very happy to stuff up.
I do want to stay.
No,
okay, sorry, I don't know how we're gonna keep Merv on.
Oh, no.
We're gonna have to, like, I don't, yeah.
Okay, Merv,
Yes,
I will phone you tomorrow with what I'm going to present. Because
Okay.
Tracy's not here either, and time is not of the essence.
So, you'll come back for generations in, 15?
Not even 10 minutes.
Oh.
All I need is 10 minutes.
Yes, it's not, it's kind of.
Oh.
Yes, kind of.
Oh, yes, Merv.
I just want to apologize. If council seen me gawking off to the right all afternoon, that's because I got two computers, one with Zoom and one with things that committee.
No worries, Merv. 10 minutes log on to
The
generation.
judgment-free zone, Murph.
Do I write the names on the sheet? Is that okay? And then Jeff will.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll see you at 4 o'clock at Generations, Merv.
I forgot about that. You can put it in a separate room. And thanks for leaving. Get out. Okay, I have a resolution dated this 20th day of February 2024. The committee moves out of closed session to rise and report. The committee met to receive information and give staff direction regarding a nomination and to approve the minutes from October 24th, 2023. It's actually to give staff and council direction, actually. If you want to know the truth, yeah. Moved by John, all in favor, done. And now I will ask for a conclusion of the meeting, please. Moved by Brent, all in favor, we're adjourned.